Okay, so real quick, you have definitely seen this painting. It's on your friend's hoodie, it's someone's phone wallpaper, there's a tattoo of it on at least 3 people you follow. The Starry Night is literally everywhere. And the guy who painted it, he sold exactly one painting his entire life. Not one collection, not one exhibition. One painting. 400 francs. That's about $2,000 today for a decade of work. 900 paintings. And a level of rejection so consistent it would break most people in the first year. His name was Vincent van Gogh, and he is somehow both the most famous artist who ever lived and the most catastrophically overlooked person of his entire era. And that tension between how we see him now and how the world saw him then is genuinely one of the saddest things I've ever looked into. Here's what they don't tell you in school. Vincent didn't even start painting until he was 27. Before that, he was an art dealer, fired. A teacher, quit after a few months. A preacher, literally removed from his post for being, and I quote, too zealous. Which is a very formal way of saying he cared too much, and it made everyone uncomfortable. Relatable, honestly. He spent his entire 20s trying to find a place where he fit, and the world kept saying, no, not here, not you, try somewhere else. When he finally picked up a brush, it wasn't some glorious artistic awakening. It was closer to a guy running out of other options and deciding to try the one thing nobody could fire him from. His early paintings were dark, heavy, muddy, portraits of poor farmers with thick hands and tired eyes. He spent months on his most ambitious early work, The Potato Eaters, and when he finally showed it, critics said the hands looked like dirty gloves. Brutal. He packed up and moved to Paris, then Arles, then Saint-Rémy, chasing something he could feel but couldn't name. And somewhere in that movement he discovered color, Japanese woodblock prints, the Impressionists, and it completely broke his brain open in the best way. His palette went from dark and heavy to electric and alive almost overnight. Sunflowers, the bedroom, those impossible blue skies over Arles. It looked like a completely different artist. Except it wasn't a different artist. It was the same guy, and he was simultaneously having the best creative period of his life and completely falling apart mentally. Both things at the same time, running parallel, which, if you think about it, is one of the most painfully human things imaginable. In 1888, Vincent had a plan. He was going to start an artist colony in the south of France, a place where painters could live together, support each other, make great work. He called it the Yellow House, and he invited his friend Paul Gauguin to come live and paint with him. Gauguin was confident, worldly, commercially successful, everything Vincent wasn't, and for a few months it actually seemed like it might work, and then it absolutely did not work. They fought constantly about art, about technique, about everything. Until one night in December, Gauguin stormed out, Vincent followed him into the street, something snapped, and Vincent went back inside and cut off the lower part of his own ear. Wrapped it in newspaper, walked to a nearby brothel, handed it to a woman named Rachel, then went home and went to sleep. The police found him the next morning. Gauguin had already left and never came back. Now every time the story gets told, people treat the ear thing as the punchline, proof that he was out of his mind. But if you actually read his letters from this period, he wasn't incoherent. He was terrifyingly lucid. He wrote about his own mental state with this quiet, precise sadness that makes it so much harder to read than any raving would. He checked himself into an asylum in Saint-Rémy voluntarily because he knew something was wrong, and in that asylum, in a room with barred windows, he painted 150 works in 12 months, including Starry Night, He painted it looking out of that window at night. The swirling sky, that impossible movement. That's not a metaphor for madness. That's literally what the sky looked like to him. That was his mind, rendered in paint, trying to process a world that kept telling him he didn't belong in it. Vincent van Gogh died on July 29, 1890. He was 37. He shot himself in a wheat field and walked back to his room and lay down and waited. His brother Theo rushed to his side. His last words were, "La tristesse durera toujours." The sadness will last forever. 6 months later, Theo collapsed from grief and died too. The brothers are buried side by side in a small cemetery in France, covered in ivy, visited by millions of people every year who would not exist in Van Gogh's mind because he had no idea any of this no idea that Starry Night would hang in the Museum of Modern Art. No idea that his face would be on 1 billion posters. No idea that you would be watching a video about him right now. He died a failure, completely, genuinely in his own mind, and became the most recognizable artist in human history approximately 5 minutes after it was too late to matter. The sadness lasted forever, but so did the paintings. So here's what I want to ask you. If Van Gogh had gotten one good review, one sale, one person in his lifetime who said, "This is extraordinary," do you think he would have kept going? Or was the rejection somehow part of what made the work what it is? Let me know in the comments, because I genuinely don't know the answer, and I think about it more than I should. If you want more stories like this, artists, obsession, tragedy, the kind of history they absolutely did not teach you in school, subscribe